last time on Dragon Ball Z.
So I took so long recording my viewer submissions, I'm going to have to make that a separate video.
Hello, Josh. As though you don't see enough of me already, I'm sending in a video, and this isn't exactly a rant as much as it is a warning. A cautionary tale. A message to whom it may concern that even sometimes reasonable men, such as myself, can get pushed too far. Sometimes even my ever-abounding patience patience can reach its end. People will talk about in bookish communities that, like, oh, all the spines should match, and it should be, the level of the book should be exactly even, and make sure you don't change anything about the design of them, and have it all look perfectly. And people can get OCD to a ridiculous degree about their bookshelves looking the same. And I actually think having a little variety, having a little bit of a difference in the types of books that you have can actually be a really good thing and add some personality to a shelf. And then there are times where what a publisher does is just unreasonable, and let me show you an example here. So today we're going to be talking about the Alvin Maker series by Orson Scott Card. This is a series I read earlier last year and really, really loved. So I got all the hardcovers here, but let's look at how these line up on the shelf. Okay, so for book 1, Seventh Son, we have got Orson Scott Card's name at the top, and it is horizontal, and then the title of the book, vertical, with a little picture. Then we've got the name Orson Scott Card, vertical, and then the title of the book, Red Prophet, vertical, so neither of them are horizontal. Then we've got the name over the title, both of them vertical. Then we've got the name over a big picture, and then the title, and both of them are horizontal. And then we've got the name horizontal, and then the title vertical, once again over a big picture. And then we have, not like up here where it was the author and then the title. Here it is the title and then the author, both of them vertical, with the little image at the bottom there. I am not an unreasonable man. I am abounding in patience towards the different demands and concerns and things that need to be changed over the course of publishing. I understand all of that, but sometimes the things are just taken a little too far, and even men like myself cannot stay silent.
That's hilarious. Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's super annoying, especially when there's not like other options really, you just kind of have to deal with what they provide you. In particular, it seems to be like at its most atrocious when it's hardcovers. It's like, this is how we're going to do it. And they typically don't do a lot of runs of hardcovers. And yeah, so that's super annoying, but that was hilarious. Thank you, Sam, for sending something in. Yeah. It's not like I didn't talk to him today.
All right, Josh, I got a quick question for you. What is one fantasy world if you could take your family to and hang out for a while? And what is one fantasy world you would never want to visit? I would love to hear what you have to say. That's all I got. Take care. God bless.
Ooh. Well, Jordan, thank you again for sending something in. Always good to hear from you, brother. That is an excellent question, man. Part of me wants to say sort of the gimme answer would be Middle Earth, but it would have to be like post destruction of the ring. So like particularly the Shire and maybe Rivendell. But then you got to deal with orcs and Uruk-hai and Balrogs and cave trolls and stuff. So I don't necessarily know that would be the best option. Like that'll be my like softball answer. But if I had to choose something else, I think part of me really wants to say the world of the bound and the broken. What is it? Etheria, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I'll go with, because it's big enough, it's vast enough that there's not a lot of overlap with the, good and evil. There's certainly starting to be more of that. But there's a lot that's been unexplored. So I think probably Etheria would be where I would take them, because you can see all the different races and all the different landscapes and all that kind of stuff. So that would probably be my go-to. And a place that I would never take them. That is an excellent question. That might be a more difficult question. Oh, okay. I said that'd be difficult. I don't think it is. A place that I would never take them would be to Arrakis. I would never take them to Arrakis. I would never want to visit Arrakis in that sense. My wife and I are very much like Anakin Skywalker.
I don't like sand.
Yeah, I would hate to visit there. And not only is it just a desert world, but it's just constantly trying to kill you. So that would be the last place that I would want to go. So Jordan, again, thank you so much for sending something in. Always good to hear from you. So thank you so much.
Hi, Josh. So you're pretty well known for DNFing books over your Christian convictions. My question to you is, how have these convictions changed throughout your growth as a Christian?
Well, hello, Brittany. It's so good to hear from you. Thank you for sending something in. That is an excellent question. They seem to have deepened, which I know that's like a really vague answer. I think more than anything, it's just sort of intensified. Years ago, I read the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire, which is a Game of Thrones, and wasn't really bothered by it. I mean, there were things that were in there that I was like, oh, that's kind of icky, or, and that's probably an understatement. Might be the understatement of the year. But there are certainly things that were in there that I wrestled with, but it was like, yeah, it's in there, and I just kind of dealt with it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I was just kind of like, like, I don't like it. I don't prefer it, but whatever, it's there. And I did that a lot more with TV shows and movies, as we just kind of watched whatever, whenever. And while those things did bother me, it rarely caused me to refrain from watching them. And so that has sort of bled into my reading. So I'll say, like, well, again, I'll just be transparent. A friend of mine and I had actually planned on kind of secretly rereading the first book of A Game of Thrones, because I'd heard from several people that they wanted to know my opinions on it, but it's been at least 10 years since I've read it. And so, like, I know the story, but I don't really remember what's in it. I remember a few things distinctly, but I don't remember the levels of inclusion there or whatever. I say all that to say this, that I got like one chapter in, and that was really all I could do. That was probably too much. There was just some like really gratuitous sexual stuff going on in there, and talked to a few friends and sort of got their opinions on it. And they kind of told me where the standard actually is. It's like, well, here's some of your, like, if you remember this part, this is sort of like par for the course. And if that's too much, then I would not, I wouldn't move any further. I wouldn't waste your time with it. So that's been part of it. But it's also just been that I think as I've matured, hopefully, that I'm starting to see deliberate like proselytizing in books. And I mean that in numerous ways. So there are some books you'll read and you'll see their worldview pretty overtly in their writing. And sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the author, and it depends on how well it's done. But sometimes when it's shoehorned in there, it just makes me roll my eyes. But when there are things like when someone is an atheist and they're very openly atheist, and they're like, not only am I atheist, but they're what a friend of mine has coined an atheist evangelist, where they take whatever opportunity they have to try to discredit God and discredit his word. That really, I really take offense to that. That's one of those things that really, really bothers me, and it will cause me to put a book down pretty quickly. For instance, Ready Player One. I probably won't go back to that book just because, and again, it's not like it's some huge, like, egregious thing, but it's enough in there where it's certainly meant to discredit Christianity and Christians altogether. And so anytime I see that, it just makes me doesn't just make me roll my eyes anymore, but it pricks the heart, it affronts my conscience. And it just makes me realize I shouldn't be reading this, if that's the case. Shouldn't be reading, and this is me personally, but I shouldn't be reading, condoning, and promoting somebody's work that is openly attacking the very foundation of my life. So that's been sort of, I guess, like as far as how it's changed, that's really how it's changed over the past few years. And again, I haven't been reading for a super long time. I started reading in 2019, 2020, something like that. So I've only been reading books for 5 or 6 years. And as I've been reading, I believe I've matured spiritually. So that's actually part of the reason why I haven't went back to some of the series that I love, because I'm worried that I'll end up DNFing them for various reasons. So that's an excellent question. And sort of like piggyback on that, that's how it is currently changing. And I know everybody's levels of tolerance for certain things is going to be different. Like, just for instance, I'm not picking on him, but my brother Ted, I know that he has an absolute aversion to one particular like profane, blasphemous term. And I would agree with him. I have a similar aversion to that. And I don't think that really it's ever called for. But for Ted, if it's in a book, he doesn't want any part of it. He immediately stops and moves on to something else, which I commend him for. But that's what Ted needs to do. That may not necessarily be what everybody needs to do. I think that what we don't need to do is we don't need to, maybe I'm getting up on a soapbox, and I don't need to do that, because I don't need to tell people what they should and shouldn't do. Instead, what I would like to see is I would like to see us Christians who are in this little community. I mean, we're on BookTube, and not only in BookTube, but like Christian BookTube of sci-fi and fantasy. Like, you know how small our little window is. It's very tiny. And our little club is like, we're a very small group in the grand scheme of things. But what ends up happening a lot of times is that when somebody mentions that they DNF a book, and other people immediately ask why, and the other Christians, mind you, and we explain it, and immediately that person is attacked or at least confronted. And they're like, well, it's not really that bad, or it's not this or that, and they're defending this work against their brother or sister. I don't personally understand that. Or something like people have mentioned that Mormons write a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, and there's a lot of people that have this idea that like somehow if we keep reading the Mormon books that they're going to infiltrate our theology. What I just don't want to happen is I don't want us to start shooting our own. Christians tend to do that more frequently than anybody else. And we draw these hard lines in the sand.
I don't like sand.
Just say, well, I like the book. And so when another Christian says that they're DNFing a book based on their Christian values, it almost seems like they think it's an attack on their own, on how they interpret Christianity, or on their Christian values, because it makes it seem like, well, and again, I'm just telling you this from experience, is a lot of people go, well, you DNF'd this because this had same-sex relationship in it, but really it's blah, 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 blah. Or you won't read that, but you'll read this over here. And I'm like, guys, I'm just telling you why I DNF'd it. I'm not telling you why you should DNF it. Maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. I don't really care. And by that, I mean, like, I'm not bothered that you enjoy a book or that you had to DNF a book. But what I will say is that I think we need to support and edify one another a lot more than we need to, go on the offensive and go, well, he didn't finish the book that I liked, and so now I need to defend it as a Christian. It's like, or maybe support your brother or sister because they're wrestling with their own convictions, and the Lord has placed these convictions in their life. And so we don't need to try to convince them to go against what the Spirit is telling them. We need to encourage them in truth and in love to listen to those convictions. And maybe that means putting a book down. Maybe that means turning the TV off. Maybe that means not looking at your phone, or not looking at this thing, or deleting this app, or whatever the case may be. So that's what I would love. Because, oftentimes when I'll post a review, especially on Goodreads, where I DNF a book due to convictional reasons, I actually have a lot of Christians on there that will be like, that's not the kind of Christianity that I'm a part of. I'm like, I don't really know what good that has done. I'll get off my soapbox here. But what I would like to say is that they're changing, they're continuously changing, and I hope they continue to change. And I hope that, 5-10 years down the road, I'll look at my shelves and go, I probably need to get rid of that. So just sort of final thoughts there. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Sort of my litmus test for the books that I decide to keep on my shelves is if my son goes over there and picks a book off my shelf and he reads it, am I going to be ashamed that he knows that I was entertained by that? If the answer is yes, a lot of times I'll just stay away from it, or sometimes I have to go back and unhaul it. But I hope that it continues to change. And I'm very glad that more Christians, like there's been several people that have mentioned that I've noticed recently, and it probably just started noticing it because I notice it with myself. It's like when you buy a new car, you start noticing that car on the road. As I've noticed that people like you and people like Sam and people like Jonathan Cohen and people like Jordan, people like Preacher, people like, I mean, you can just sort of throw a rock at the Christian booktubers and see that different people that have had to put down books for convictional reasons, and they're upfront about that. Like, that's what I love. I love when we go, okay, I had to put a book down and I need to explain why, because I personally think that the why matters, and it matters a lot. Because it would be very easy for me to go on Goodreads and put DNF this book, didn't like it. That's the easy thing. But I do want people to know why, not because I want attention or whatever, but really because I think as Christians, it's important for us to make a distinction between Christianity and everything else. And sometimes that means going against even our own fleshly desires of, man, I was really having a good time with this book, but I couldn't get through it. Oh, and there's been a few of those in the past few months that I've had to do. And one of them being Sledge versus the Labyrinth, and the author completely understood. Yeah, that is an excellent question. So, I'm glad that I'm known for DNFing books for convictional reasons. I will do my best to not post like rant videos. Like a lot of people have seen my Wind and Truth video. I apologize to a degree. I apologize. It was more of a rant video. And what I should have done is not told people you should or shouldn't pick it up, but instead I should have said, this is why I can't continue. Because if you continue on with the series, you have all the freedom in the world to do so. Again, I can go on and on about this. That's an excellent, Brittany asked excellent questions. But I'll just say that, they're changing, they're continuously changing. They're intensifying. They're becoming, more harsh and not less harsh as far as my DNFs go. And that's because there's so many books out there that I know I'm not going to be able to get to before I die, that I don't want to waste time on a book that I'm not going to be able to promote or be entertained by or be able to hand down to my kids when they're older or whatever. So, yeah, they're changing, and I hope they continue to do so. But again, thank you so much for sending in your question. I'm sorry for my very long-winded answer. But again, so great to hear from you, Brittany. So thank you for sending that in.
All right, brother. I finally got the chance to reach out to you for a book recommendation. And the book recommendation that I'm going to make for you is S, or Ship of Theseus by J.J. Abrams. Very unique book. It is it's a thriller mystery, but it's set up in a very interesting way. So it comes in this wonderful slipcase. It looks like an old library book. You can kind of see it right there. The book actually looks like something straight out of the 50s. Very cool. But the way that it's set up is it is a library book. So you can see it says book for loan on the inside. And it is a book about the ship of Theseus, if you're familiar with that. But inside, there are two college students. There's a grad student and a college senior that are reading the book, trying to solve a mystery. And throughout the book, they are leaving their own margin notes. So you can see that there's handwriting in there. Throughout the book, you've got all kinds of fun little pieces that are pushed throughout, and each of them has a little bit of extra information on it. And so as you read through the book, you have to read the story and then go back and reread it with all of the notes. Absolutely amazing story. Has some fun little doodads and stuff that come with it, but it's definitely an interesting read. It takes up a lot of time because, like I said, you have to read it initially and then reread it along with the notes so that you can get a feel for what the initial mystery is and then how they're solving it. And their kind of notes back and forth. They basically are getting the book, they're leaving a note and putting it back in the library. The other one comes back, gets it, reads it again. Just a fun read. It's very unique. Definitely recommend you give it a shot if you're looking for something that's a little bit different and not quite up your normal alley.
What is up, Josh? What is up, my brother? It's so good to hear from him. Guys, Josh, I'm telling you, you guys need to just like flood the comment section and tell Josh like start a channel, because it would be so awesome. But yeah, that sounds great. I've actually seen it at the bookstore a few times and have picked it up and been like, J.J. Abrams, that looks awesome. And then when I actually had one where I could pull it out of the slipcase, I was like, what is this? So I have not picked it up yet, but I have seen it. So I will certainly add that to the list and we'll get to it soon. Man, that looks great. So thank you so much for the recommendation, brother. So I've got 2 questions that were sent in to me. The first is from my sister, Tara. Hello. Thank you for sending something in. And she says, I know you don't talk about nonfiction very much on the channel, but of the nonfiction that you have read in 2025, did you have any favorites? Yes. So I'm a huge fan. I'm like a giant nerd when it comes to World War II stuff. So the book Band of Brothers by Stephen, I think it's Abraham. I can't remember. Anyway, is fantastic. But it actually made me go down the rabbit hole a little bit deeper. And there's another book by Major Dick Winters that is essentially his autobiography called Hang Tough. It is fantastic. I highly commend that to any young man that is looking for some examples of true leadership. It is just fantastic, talking about all the things that he had to wrestle with internally as the leader of Easy Company during such tumultuous time, and realizing that he was in his early 20s is it's amazing. It's truly amazing. So certainly those 2 sort of blew me away. And then I've got a couple that I've sort of taken little bites from. They're all nerdy World War II books because those tend to be some of my favorites, but I would say those 2 in particular. So Band of Brothers is fantastic, but if you like Band of Brothers and you're looking for something a little bit different, because I actually think that the TV series does like a better job of storytelling, because you get the visual effect and the soundtrack and all of that extra stuff. But I think if you like that, certainly check out Hang Tough by Major Dick Winters. It is fantastic. Thank you so much for an excellent question. But then she also goes on to tell me about a show recommendation, which is the Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, which is on Daily Wire. I have actually heard about this. I've seen the ads for it. It looks great. Samwise actually sent me the Pendragon Cycle book series, which I plan to get to sometime this year. I don't have Daily Wire yet, but we'll probably be getting it very soon so that we can watch it. So thank you so much for the recommendation. We will be checking it out. And then my last submission comes from my brother, Owen. Owen, so good to hear from you, my friend. It's been too long since we've talked. We need to sync up and chat more. But he said, hey Josh, I've been watching your channel for a minute now and enjoy the content. Thank you so much, brother. I picked up and recently finished the Lycanius trilogy and Ordinary Grace. Yes. And he said, I would like to add some sort of suggestion or review, and that would be Galaxy's Edge Legionnaire by Nick Cole and Jason Ansbach. I guess that's how you pronounce it. He says, it's one of my favorite sci-fi books of all time. It's kind of like Star Wars, but focuses on special forces. Okay. He said, I've read the series through season 2. I guess that's how they break it up, which ended extremely well. So I highly commend the first book to you, which works well as a standalone. But after that, make sure you keep going. It's a lot, but it's certainly worth it. Thank you so much, brother. Yes, I will certainly be adding this to the list as well. Man, I think I'm going to have to separate this and make it a separate video because of its length. But guys, thank you so much for sending stuff in. It is so great to talk to you guys. So great to hear from you guys. I will be adding these books to the list. Thank you to everyone that sent something in. Guys, if you'd like to send something in for next month, please do. Just send me an email over at thereformedreaderbooks@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thank you to everybody that sent something in. It's always good to hear from all of you guys. And if nothing else, maybe you got a cheap laugh out of me. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me and listening to me ramble. Hope you guys have an excellent month ahead. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.